welcome to our NHS Pension Scheme Understanding Your Benefits session. My name is Laura and I'm going to be running this session for you today. For those of you who were not part of the pre-recording bit, we've just discovered that half of the attendees are running off to netball at some point, and heated coasters are 100% the way forward. And if you haven't got one, you need to Google it so you can see what they are. So we're going to be here for about 2 hours, maybe a little bit less. As I've already mentioned, if anybody needs to leave, please do. It's absolutely not a problem. Although don't all leave in the first 10 minutes because I might get a bit suspicious. There is going to be a recording available on our YouTube channel. You can just go onto YouTube and search for Pengage, and there we are. And all of our recent recordings are available for you on there as well. So what we're going to try and do today, this session is just an introduction to the NHS Pension Scheme, as if there could ever be such a thing. OK, so what we are going to talk to you about is some of the key elements of the scheme and how it works. Jenny's just ordered a heated coaster. Nice. So we're going to talk about the scheme and how it works. Now, this is an introduction session. It's a general overview. If you are looking for real detail about things such as how to fill in retirement forms, you might not find that on this session. It's just because I can't fit everything in. It's impossible. So we do run different sessions for pre-retirement and partial retirement, boosting benefits and so on as well. But this is a really good place to start because there's lots of things you probably don't know that you need to know. So welcome along. So what we're going to do is we're going to look a little bit at roles and responsibilities. We're then going to talk about types of pension schemes. So these are things that are just fairly generic. We will then move into talking about the NHS pension scheme in a bit more detail and how it works. And we're also going to talk about the McCloud remedy, which you've probably heard or seen words about floating around all over the place. We're then going to spend a little bit of time rattling through the total reward statement. So we're going to show you what that is and what it is telling you. Now, I'm aware, have we got any Scottish people on? Have we got any SPPA people or Northern Ireland people? Hello guys, welcome. So when I'm talking about the total reward statement, that applies to England. I'm very sorry about that. Now, that's okay, because the labels or the information that's contained on the total reward statement is very similar to the information that's contained on your statements through the SPPA or Northern Ireland. So it might visually look different, but what things are called are similar, and so the explanations will match up. So I hope that makes sense. Similarly, for any of you who are currently now using the new My NHS Pension online system, again, it will look a bit different in the way that the information is presented, but what they call things is the same. So it's just the labelling is the same. So that should help you to work through. Shelley says, what about Wales? Wales is the same as England. So England and Wales are kind of lumped together, Shelley. I wasn't deliberately excluding Wales. So we've got England and Wales, and then we've got Scotland and Northern Ireland, which sort of run slightly separately. Okay, so that's how we're going to, and then we're also going to talk about your pension options at the end. So that's kind of how we're going to try and structure the session. So as I've said, if you can keep your questions to the section that we're talking about. So if you've got questions about McCloud, don't ask me when I'm doing roles and responsibilities, because I'll probably just skip over it because we're not on McCloud yet. Does that make sense? Just to try and keep the flow going. We do go quite fast as well. Think Martin Lewis on 8 cups of coffee. Okay. So the first thing I would like to do is talk to you about roles and responsibilities. This is exciting. It's not, but it's important. Okay, so when we talk about roles and responsibilities, it's about who takes responsibility and who does what when it comes to your NHS pension. Okay, and the reason this is important is because we need to understand the structure of how everything kind of hangs together. So probably the biggest player in this, might surprise you, is your employer. Now, your employer, when I'm talking about your employer in this sense, I'm generally talking about the people who do your payroll and pensions within your organisation. So if you're in a trust, it could be that you've got your own team internally. It could be that you outsource it somewhere else. So, for example, some trusts outsource to shared business services or some other trusts. OK, so it is whoever your employer is that deals with your pay and pensions. And the reason that they are the most important part of this, or one of the most important parts, is because they provide the information about you to the NHS Pensions Agency or to SPPA or HSC, whoever you are, okay? So if that information is incorrect, then any of your pension information and details and figures will also be incorrect. So your employer is the biggest part of this. And if you've ever contacted NHS Pensions to tell them that there is something missing or something is incorrect, they almost certainly will always redirect you back to your employer or your employer at the time. And the reason for that is because they are responsible for that. So they are a significant part of this process. And when we look at the total reward statement a bit later on, that's on the ESR system for those of you in England and Wales, your employer actually owns that system. Okay, so it's all comes through your employer. So your employer is really important. We are very quick to criticise NHS pensions, and I will say that sometimes I think that is right because they have erred or they are taking quite a long time to do things or not communicating very well and so on. But actually, it starts with the employer. And so we need to be really aware of that. Okay, so we need to make sure we understand that. The next party, of course, is then going to be the pension scheme. So the pension scheme will either be the NHS Pensions Agency for England and Wales, it will be SPPA for Scotland, or it will be HSC for Northern Ireland. So your pension scheme are the organisation who does the administration of your pension scheme. Okay, so that is the same for general practice. And again, for general practice, your employer will be your employer. So usually your practice manager or some general practices outsource the payroll somewhere else, but it's the same principle. Yes, yeah. Okay, so the pension scheme are then responsible for taking the data from your employer and for calculating your pension benefits. So that's why if any of that information from your employer is incorrect, then your pension benefits will also be incorrect. So your employer has a responsibility to provide the correct information. The pension scheme has a responsibility to deal with that responsibly and in the right way. Okay. And then the next very important person in this wheel, if you like, is you. As individual members of pension schemes, now I'm not a member of the NHS pension scheme, sadly, but I am in a pension scheme. As members of pension schemes, we are responsible for our pension, not the employer, not the pension scheme. They have their roles, and we've talked about what they are, but we have a responsibility to make sure that we engage with it, that we understand it, that we look at our statements and we look at our information about us and we check that is correct. It's too easy to say it's up to my employer, it's up to NHS pensions, it's up to somebody else. This is your pension. Your pension is likely to be your first or second biggest asset. Okay, so if it's your second biggest asset, the first is likely to be your house. But your pension is going to come a very close second to that, if not first. It is potentially worth to you hundreds of thousands of pounds over your lifetime, and we'll look at why that is in a moment. But we do not give this the time that it deserves. We do not feel that it is important enough that we need to spend time on this every single year. We just do not. And I don't know why, and I wish it was something that they taught in schools, but they don't. And everybody is the same. Now, what I will say is congratulations, because you are on this session and hopefully you're on the Facebook page, which means you want to find out more, which is really good and really important. But you have a really big part to play in this, okay? And I cannot stress that enough. What will help you to do that is your statement and the information that you get from your employer. So therefore, what we can see is if your employer provides the right information to the pension scheme and the pension scheme deal with that correctly, and you look at your statements and you can check that and understand that every year, then you know that when you get your benefits are going to be correct. But if any of those things are missing, then there's a chance that something could be incorrect, or even worse, that you could make a decision that is not an informed decision and it might not be the best option for you. So roles and responsibilities, it's really important that we understand all the players that are involved. Right, I can see some questions. So let me have a look. Right, I'm not, still can't hear anything. Oh, Michelle, hang on a second. Right, Jane, we're not doing TRS. I'll come back to that later. Hello, Kate. If you need some information from an ex-employer that's now ceased to exist, oh, this is tricky. Is it your most recent employer who is responsible? I'm trying unsuccessfully to get pay slips, but they can only give me up to 2 years. Is that correct? So, if your current employer will not necessarily inherit your payroll records from a previous employer unless it was like a to be transfer type arrangement. So this is quite tricky because it's quite possible that nobody has these records. And then what you've got to do is try and find other ways of proving to NHS pensions if you've got something missing. And that might be that you have to go back and speak to HMRC, for example. We can talk about that a bit later on when we're looking at the reward statement, but you might need to go back to past employers. And this is one of the reasons why you need to make sure that you're checking your information every year, because the first time you do it, it's going to be an absolute chew because you're going to have to go back through all the history and you might find you've got stuff missing from 7 years ago. And how are you going to track that down? But if you're doing it every year and you realise there's a mistake from a year ago, that's quite easy to fix, isn't it? So this is why it's really important. You can't just sit back on your sun lounger waiting for it to come to you. You need to be proactive in going to that, and it's really important. Right, I'm just going to thumbs up the ones that I've answered. Christina, if you've paid into the Scottish and English pension, do they join as one pension? No, they are separate pension schemes. So if, for example, you're in the Scottish scheme and then you move to England, you need to transfer the Scottish pension across to England as well. It won't follow you. You have to move them, and vice versa. Same with Northern Ireland. You have to move them around with you. If you have left work due to ill health, is your last employer still responsible? Well, if it's a data query from the time that you worked with that employer, then yes, they are responsible. If you've already left work and you are what's called a deferred member, then you're not in active employment anymore. So your employer sort of drops out of the loop and it becomes between you and the pensions agency. But similarly, if there's any issues with the data, it will have to go back to that employer. So it does depend on what it is as to how you get them involved. Now, I want to show you something that will help. So I'm going to share a different screen for a moment. So I'm just going to minimize the chat box. So I can't see the chat box at the moment, okay, because I want to share something else with you. And that is the internet, okay? So I'm sure you're all familiar with the internet. How many of you, I did a poll on this the other day, how many of you use the NHS Pension Scheme website? Some of you, yeah, okay. Because this is one place where you can be helping yourself to try and learn a bit more information. Hang on a second, sorry. Technical error, everybody hold, it's all right when it works, isn't it? There we go. Right, hopefully you can see that now. Okay, so this is the NHS Pensions website, and you can see at the top the web address there. And there are links to it in the back of the slides when you get the slides as well, okay? Now this is the holy grail of your pension scheme. You need to be using the information on this page, okay? So this is not how you access your TRS. This is nothing to do with the statements. This is just general pension scheme information. So, you know, when I get a question on the Facebook page and it's things like, how do I contact NHS pensions? Where do I get a death benefit nomination form? What are the early retirement factors? Do you know what I do? I do this. right? So I go to Google and I'll go NHS pensions early retirement factor 2023. Look, it's come up. How many times have I done that? And then it'll go, oh, it's here. Oh, it's there. Look, isn't that amazing? Google. So you need to use the website, and you need to use all the information that is available to you by Googling through the website. Now, if you go to the website homepage, as I am here, there's a member hub, and you can go into the member hub, and it gives you all sorts of information down the side. It gives you cost of being on the scheme, that's contribution rates. It tells you how to get an estimate, how you can pay more into your pension, how you can change your nomination details. It gives you so much information. So your starting point, if you want to know anything about the scheme, is here. You've also got a member guide for the 1995 section. Let's go in there. Right, so 1995 tells me what it is. We just ignore small print. Let's have a look. It tells us different types of organisation. It tells us how the scheme works, how the benefits grow, how we can calculate our benefits, what the membership is. It tells you all of those things. So these guides are, you know, really key, and they should be where you start. We've also got a 2015 one. Look, let's have a look. Oh, look at that. Right, so it's all, and it's got loads of key information there. How do you transfer benefits in? How do I come out of the scheme? How do I pay more? What happens if I'm not very well? What's the normal pension age? When can I take my benefit? Early retirement. They're all in the guides. Right, so you need to use the websites as effectively as you can. Now, I haven't forgotten the rest of you. Those of you who are in SP Scotland, you are administered by SPPA. Again, you've got your website up here. I won't go through it all in the same thing, but you've got a whole section about the NHS pension, and you've got all your different sections down the side. So you do need to make sure that you use the information that is available to you. We also have a website. This is our website, and on our website we've got a blog, and we've got a whole section that talks about McCloud. I mean, it's just relentless. It talks about retirement living standards. Hold up, McCloud. It talks about lots of different other things, flexible retirements. So all sorts of places that you've got access to that you can find information if you need it. Okay, and it's really important that you use those tools that are available to you. Now, I know sometimes you say that you don't know that you've got them, but actually, if you ever look at your total reward statement or any of your other statements, it gives you links to all of these websites. So we just need to read a bit more into some of those details to be able to find the information that we need. Now, having said that, I know that sometimes it's difficult to pick through some of those things. Sometimes it's not clear how it operates in a certain scenario, and I completely understand that. And again, that's what we're here for, to try and help you with that where we can. But do use the tools that you've got, because I think there's more there than you realise. And again, the pension schemes come under quite a lot of criticism for I didn't know, and it's like, but it's there. So start there first and then see how you get on. Okay. Tracy, yes, that was for England and Wales. I've shown you SPPA, but actually the rules are the same pretty much across the scheme. So you could use the England website just to get information. It would be different forms for one of the other regions, but you could just still use that for information. Do you have to log in for this website? No, Sue. As I've said, that is the general website. So if you saw at the top, it just said BSA pensions, and then it was just the member zone. It is nowhere to log in. It's not where you access your statement. It's just a general section on the website. Diane tells you the normal pension age for all of the different schemes too. Correct, Diane. So I am going to give Diane a star because Diane is absolutely right. It tells you everything. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I don't know who you are, unknown user. They've also put a link to the member hub. So that's the link that you need to use. You'll get that in the slides at the end. Okay, so that's a little lecture over, but I just want us all to start in the right place. You've come here today, you want to know stuff. You're on the Facebook page, you want to know stuff. There's loads of places you can go to know stuff. Okay, so that's what we need to be doing. Right, so we're all good with that. Mine is not showing anything at the moment on the NHS Pension website or TRS. It's not the TRS, it's just this link that we've got posted above. If you use that link, that gives you that generic information that we're talking about, okay? Lots of people called unknown user on here tonight, by the way, so I don't know who you all are. Right, okay, so let's talk about the types of pension scheme then. So we're still not really on NHS, but we'll get there. Let's start with the state pension. Somebody has a question about contracted out, which I'm coming back to if I can find it. Oh, hang on, we've got other questions. Right, Luke, will leaving the pension for less than 2 years massively affect contributions in the long term? Well, Luke, it will mean you have 2 years less of pension building up. So let's look at how the pension builds up later, and then you can decide. Stephanie, I only looked at my TRS for the first time in 34 years 2 months ago. I don't even look at a payslip. Stephanie, if I felt you didn't need it, I would eject you from this session at this point. Frightening. I get it. A lot of people are the same. But I mean, for one, how do you know you're being paid the right amount? That would be my first question. So yeah, it's good that you've done it now. Keep doing it. If I've been in all 3 schemes and had a 10-year break between the first and second, is it all automatically transferred? I'm going to come on to that, Joe. None of that was about what I was talking about. What did I say about questions at the start, everyone? Keep it to the section we're talking about. Right, so the state pension is a pension payable in addition to your NHS pension. Okay, so it's not directly linked. It is an additional payment that most people in the UK will receive when they reach state pension age. So when you get your slides or have a look at your slides, this little black box here at the top is a link. So you click on this link and it takes you into your state pension forecast, and you can sign in and you can then find out what your state pension is estimated to be. It will show you your state pension age. It's likely to show 67. Mine is 68. So anybody born after 1979, yours will be 68. Sorry about that. So it shows you what your state pension age was likely to be. It will show you the maximum entitlement. Now, until last week, the maximum entitlement was £203. It's now about 220 something, I think, because the April increase has been applied. And it references your national insurance record. So this little screenshot that we've got here shows you all of those things. So in order to qualify for the full amount of state pension, so the 222-ish pounds a week, you need to have roughly the equivalent of 35 years of full rate NI credits. And that could be 35 years of paying full rate national insurance. But you can get NI credits another way. So if you've been claiming benefits, if you claim child benefits, if you paid extra contributions and all those sorts of things, they all count as NI credits. Just one thing to note, when you're a member of a scheme like the NHS Pension Scheme, before 2016, you actually paid a lower rate of national insurance. It was called Category D instead of Category A. So that means that for 1 year at paying the lower rate of national insurance is not equal to 1 year of full credit. It's like a part year. So it's possible that if you were contracted out for a long time, that you might not get the full entitlement, but you still might. So there's no panicking involved here, but we just need to make sure that we go online and that we have a look and we can check. Contracting out ceased in 2016. So everybody now is paying full rate NI, and every year counts as a full year towards your state pension. So just be aware of that. The other thing slightly controversial is that the state pension is not an entitlement. It is a benefit under the Social Security Act 1946 that came into place just after the Second World War. So it has always been like that. Some people think it only became a benefit in 2016 when the structure of the scheme changed, but actually it's always been a benefit. Now it's a contributory benefit, so it's based on the NI credits as we've talked about before. Now the thing about that means it can and it does change. So we saw it with some changes in 2016. We have seen it with the changes to the state pension age with it increasing. So just to be aware that if you're somebody like me, who I was born in 1980, so sadly I have a while to go, 24 years at this rate to my state pension age. It might not even be the same state pension then as it is now. It might look quite different. It might be later again. It might be means tested. It could be all sorts of things. So whilst the state pension is an important part of our planning, it should not be the pivotal part of our planning because it could change for those of us before we receive it. Once you receive it, it doesn't usually change after that, apart from with the increases. So you just need to be aware of that, okay? Michelle's asked, did you have to agree to being contracted out, or were you automatic? So you actually agreed to it by being a member of the scheme, even if you didn't realise it. There would have been some correspondence at the time that says when you join the scheme, you're contracted out of what was called the additional state pension or state second pension at the time. So it was an automatic contractual agreement because you joined the scheme. Now, the reason for it was because the state pension was in two parts previously. We had the basic state pension and we had the additional state pension. And not everybody qualified for the additional state pension, and generally people who are members of schemes like this would never have sort of got that second part of the state pension. So they've said, well, you guys can pay a lower rate because you won't get this benefit, which made a lot of sense. But then in 2016 they kind of merged the two parts to what we've got now, which is the full state pension. So it might be that your state pension is a bit less than full, but it's still more than it would have been under the old system. And that's what we need to understand. OK, so but from 2016, everybody's back to paying full rate NI. Hello, Jane. How can you check that the record is correct if you've been contracted out? My husband has 50 years, but still says oh for extra 3. So if you go on to this, there should be a breakdown of the years, so you can check what they are. You can also ask for a separate contracting out history, and they'll be able to give you that as well, so that you can check if that looks like it was right or not. Sounds like you would have been contracted out for quite a long time, though, based on that. How do I know if I'm paying or have paid full NI? 15. So you will pay full rate NI so long as you earn over about £6,000 a year, which is the lower earnings limit for national insurance, or you're claiming benefits. It's only prior to 2016 that it might have been different. Otherwise, it's full rate. And again, if you look on here, it will tell you. If the government site says you cannot improve your forecast, does that mean full pension? Yes, it does, Sinead. And as I say, most of you will probably be in that situation. Just because you've had some time contracted out doesn't mean the world is about to end. It could still mean that you get the full entitlement. Thanks, Diane. There, she's put that link in. So it's the same link that I've got in the slides there, and that's how you check your state pension forecast, and it gives you your history. Is SERPs, Helen? I think you mean SERPs. It's got a P, not a B. The same thing as I get letters saying I'll get that also. So SERPs was the second part of the state pension used to be called, which is the so some people contracted out a different way and have a different pension set up in respect to SERPs. It's effectively the same thing in that it means that you might have lower national insurance credits for the years that you had a SERPs arrangement, but it might be building up in a separate pot somewhere. Okay, any questions on the state pension that we haven't done? So that's the first thing, state pension, right? What else? Now, in the UK, when we then talk about pension schemes, your NHS pension is what we call an occupational pension. So occupation being your work, okay? So it's an occupational pension because it is a pension scheme provided by your employer that both you and your employer pay into. Now, within pension schemes in the UK as well, we can split them into two different categories. So we've got defined benefit and defined contribution, or DB and DC. And the two different types of scheme work really differently, and this is really important. So defined benefit schemes have a set of rules. They will provide you with benefits that are calculated based on a formula, and that formula is around your pay and your service. Schemes like the NHS Pension Scheme, because they're public sector schemes, they are backed by the UK Treasury. So if ever there wasn't enough money, there would be enough money because the Treasury just puts more money in it. And those scheme rules also determine your pension age. So there's no risk for you guys being in schemes like a defined benefit scheme, because you're going to get an income for life, like a salary for when you stop work, based on a formula. OK. That is what the NHS pension scheme is. It is a defined benefit scheme. OK, so if we work out that your pension is £10,000 a year, that £10,000 a year is paid to you for as long as you live. So if you live for 30 years, that's over £300,000 worth of pension that you will have from the scheme. And that's what I'm saying before about the value of this benefit is really important. The other type of scheme then is DC, or defined contribution, and these are so different. These schemes are, again, have rules, but they are basically an investment option. So the contributions are paid in, they are invested. The value of that investment can go up or down depending on investment performance. And then when you reach pension age, you have a pot of money or a fund, and you can make decisions about what you do with that fund. So the risk is very much with the individual because of investment performance going up or down. There is not necessarily any set income for when you stop work. And the value is very, very different. Okay, quite often, you might have seen it yourselves on the page, people will say, my husband's pension pot is £300,000, my NHS pension is £10,000 a year, my NHS pension is rubbish. And I'm like, well, it's not, is it? Because you're looking at 300,000 and comparing it to 10, but what you're not factoring in is that £10,000 is paid to you every single year for as long as you live, and is inflation linked and provides dependent benefits. That £300,000 pot is it. So if you want £10,000 a year and it's increasing with inflation, then it's likely it'll run out after 20 years. So you're not comparing the same things. Both of them are good. Both of them have got pros and cons, but by far and away, defined benefit schemes are a much higher value benefit. It's very difficult to replicate the value of those pensions outside. So the NHS pension scheme, all the public sector pension schemes are these defined benefit schemes. Very hard to find a defined benefit scheme now outside of the public sector. And the reason for that is because they're just too expensive. Private sector employers will not entertain them anymore. They can't afford it. Your defined contribution schemes then are things like Nest, personal pensions, SIPs. If you've got any AVCs with the Prudential or Standard Life or anything like that, they are the defined contribution options. Okay. So very different things, and they work in very different ways. And it's really important that we kind of can make that connection. So your benefits in the NHS pension scheme are calculated based on a formula. Okay, and that formula is around your salary and service, and we're going to drill into that in a bit more detail. But essentially, you and your employer will pay contributions for you to be in the scheme. Your employer pays most of that cost. So it went up in April. So for every single one of you for being in the NHS pension scheme, your employer pays 23.78% of your salary. So when you think about your overall reward package or benefit package, you get your salary plus any other benefits, plus 23.78% of your salary goes into the pension, and that meets the cost of providing you with these benefits. You will also make a contribution. Your contribution you will see on your pay slip. So let's please all make sure we look at our pay slips, because you want to make sure that the percentage of the contribution you are paying is correct. The percentage is based on the amount that you earn as pensionable pay. That is deducted from your pay before tax. So you get tax relief on those contributions. And you need to think of it like a membership fee. Okay, so what I mean by that is that if I pay £100 a month into my NHS pension, it's not going into a pot. So I'm building up a pot of money like a defined contribution scheme, remember. What it's doing is it's meaning that I've got access to benefits for within the scheme. So the amount of benefits that we have in the scheme is not directly linked to the contribution that you pay as an individual. And the benefits that you have are life assurance if you die in service. So this is the death in service lump sum, which is 2 times your pay. There are dependent benefits. It says there if you die in service, but actually it's if you die whenever. So that would be adult dependent pensions for a spouse or partner, and children's pensions for children who are under the age of 23 or unable to work due to physical or mental disability. And then, of course, you will receive an annual income for life, very much like a salary. And so you pay your membership fee or your contributions, and you are covered for all of these benefits. You are also covered for ill health benefits. So in the event that you become too ill to work, the scheme might have a provision in place that allows you to claim your pension early without a reduction, or sometimes with an enhancement to what the pension would have been had you been able to stay in the scheme. So you get all of that benefit for that contribution that you are paying. And it's significantly valuable, as I say, because the employer has to put in such a large amount to help meet the balance of those benefits. Jill, can I transfer a small private pension into my NHS pension? You can, Jill, but only if you do that transfer within the first 12 months of joining the NHS pension scheme. Otherwise, the window has closed. Jane, if you die, she hopes not, so do we, Jane, whilst deferred, does the husband still get a pension? Yes, as I've said, it says if you die in service, but actually it's if you die whenever. So if you die as in deferment, if you die in service, if you die in retirement, there are dependent pensions still payable. Who is classed as an adult dependent? So an adult dependent is a spouse or partner, and the definition of a partner is where you are financially interdependent. Usually that would be recognised by living together, but there are some other circumstances that might apply. Does the life assurance still pay out if you're retired and receiving your NHS pension? No, Sandra, because up here it says if you die in service, and this is important for the life assurance. So the death in service is just that, death in service. So that means that you haven't received the pension yet. When you start receiving your benefits, you received your lump sum and your benefits. So there's unlikely to be a lump sum payable once you die after you started receiving the benefits. I love this question, it comes up a lot. Does death in service mean dying whilst being in the workplace? No. So, unknown user, it doesn't mean if you start having a heart attack, your other half has to drag you into the hospital reception. It just means if you die whilst you are a contributing member to the pension scheme. Okay, now the slight exception to that is locums or bank only staff. For you to be qualified for the death in service as a multiple of pay, you have to die on a day that you were scheduled to work. You don't have to be at work, but it's a day that you would be scheduled to work. And the reason for that is because you don't have set working hours if you're a bank or a locum. Tracy, I don't live with my husband. Secret to a happy marriage. Does that death in service lump sum? No. Death in service lump sum can be left to anyone. If you are married, again, spouse's pension is payable. The only exception is for a partner, and for a partner you have to be financially interdependent. So if you're married but you live separately, then your husband will still get a dependent's pension. Now that's also a warning to those of you who might be separated but not divorced. They would still get a dependent's pension because they are the legal spouse. So just that's something to be aware of as well. If you're now a bank worker, am I still in service? I think I've covered that, Rachel. Rose, I was told that if I died whilst I'm working on the bank, only got dependent's pension if died whilst on shift. Right, so I'll just cover that again. For those of you who work bank and you only work bank, so you don't have a substantive post as well, to get the death in service lump sum of 2 times pay, you have to die on a day that you were scheduled to work. Okay, if you die on a day when you're not scheduled to work, there is still a lump sum payable, but it's classed as being in deferment, and that means it's a multiple of pension rather than pay, so it's a lower amount. If you re-enter the scheme after several years, can you add the private pension received in between? Yes, so long as you do it within the first 12 months of rejoining, Sue, you can do that. Connor, hi Connor, if you take partial retirement, does it impact life assurance? No, because with partial retirement, and we're going to talk about that a bit later, but with partial retirement, if you continue your membership of the 2015 scheme, you're still an active member of the scheme, and so you're still covered based on your pay at that time. That's right, Luke, you need to die on a work day. Laura, if you are not paying into a pot, how are the different tier contributions worked out? Different NHS pay bands pay different percentages. Is there any benefit in paying a higher percentage? Right, so the contribution bands are worked out based on your earnings. So lower paid people pay a lower percentage, and that's because the benefit that you receive overall from the scheme is smaller than somebody who's paid a higher amount of money because their benefits are based on their pay. The other thing is those higher earners actually who pay a higher percentage receive a greater amount of tax relief. So they might get 40% tax relief on their contributions compared to lower earners who would get 20% tax relief. And therefore, overall, the contribution amounts as a percentage of pay are quite similar. But there is no benefit to have it paying a higher percentage. So we've had this question before where somebody's found on their payslip that they're having too much contribution deducted. So let's say they should be paying 7%. These are made up, by the way, but they were actually paying 9%. They said, oh, well, I don't mind paying more because it will give me more pension. Incorrect, it doesn't. The pension is calculated based on formulas, which we're going to look at in a moment. So you must check your pay slips to make sure your contributions are right, because you don't want to be paying more because you won't get any more for it. Okay, so it's really important. How much of a break do you need between NHS employers to re-qualify for moving across your private pension within the first 12 months? 5 years. You need a 5-year break, because if you come back within 5 years, your service is all linked back together again, and therefore you haven't done it in the first 12 months. Right, could you repeat the indeferment percentage? Right, so life insurance for death in service is 2 times pay, okay? If you die when you have left the scheme, or as a bank person or a locum on a day you are not scheduled to work, there is still a lump sum payable, and it is a multiple of pension. The multiple of pension depends on which section. So, for example, 95, it's 5 times the pension you've built up. For the others, it's a bit less. So there will still be a lump sum payable, but it will be smaller. So you need to just bear that in mind. Lisa, how do you know how much you should be paying? So Lisa, do you remember at the start of the session I said this is the NHS Pension Scheme website, and you can find all sorts of exciting information on the website. There was one section on the website which says how much does it cost to be in the scheme. If you go in there, it will tell you based on your pay what your percentage should be, and that's all you need to do, and then look at your pay slip. Use that information that is available to you. Jenny, I always get confused about the percentages of pensionable pay. Is this based on full-time salary or how much you're actually being paid? So it used to be, so 2 years ago, it was based on full-time equivalent. The percentages changed in 2022 and are now based on your actual. So if you're part-time, it's your actual pensionable pay. If our deferred pension, does life assurance still count as in service? Right, Jane, I've already said this. I'm going to do this one more time and then I'm moving on because it's too long, okay? If you are in deferment, there is a lump sum payable, but it is a multiple of the pension rather than pensionable pay, because if you're deferred, you're not in the scheme, so you can't have pensionable pay. So it is a lower amount. Dependent pensions are still payable at the same percentages, okay? Right. I just want to show you an example. Okay, this is an example of the 2015 benefits, and we're going to come back to it in a moment, okay, when we look in a bit more detail. But you know, I said you pay a membership fee, your employer pays the contribution, and you build up benefits. So what you get in the 2015 section is 1/54 of your pensionable pay each year. So let's say my pay in year one was £27,000 a year. 1/54 of that is 500. So at that point, I've got £500 per annum paid to me in my 2015 pension. So that means if I retired the next day, I would get paid £500 this year, £500 next year, £500 the year after, £500 every year until I die. Okay. Now that also increases each year by inflation. So the next year, I've got the pension that I've already built up. I've got inflation added onto that, and then I've got new pension again added on. And then the following year, the same thing happens again. Pension I've already built up, plus inflation, plus new pension. And can you see it's growing all the time? So by the time I've retired, I've got £7,000 per annum of pension for 7 years of being in the scheme in this example. That is how your pension builds up. Nothing to do with your contributions, everything to do with your pay. Okay? I'm going to revisit this in a second when we look at the 2015 scheme in a bit more detail, but that is how the pension works for the 2015 section. Right, let's go into the NHS pension scheme. I'm going to have to go fast now because we've taken a lot of time already. Okay, so the NHS pension scheme actually has 3 different schemes. So although all of these schemes are under the umbrella of the NHS pension scheme, they're actually all separate because they all come under a series of different scheme rules and they've all got their own rules. But we've got, so the 3 sections that we've got, you can see here are 95, 2008 and 2015. Ooh, there is, okay. So the section that you initially joined will depend on when you join the scheme. Now, I'm going to show you this when we look at the TRS in a minute, so let's not get too bogged down, okay? But if you join the scheme at any point before the 1st of April 2008, you will have joined the 1995 section, and you will have stayed in the 1995 section unless you elected to move into 2008 or when 2015 came in. If you join the scheme between the 1st of April 2008 and the 31st of March 2015, you will have joined in the 2008 section. And if you joined after the 1st of April 2015, you will have joined in the 2015 section. Now, when the 2015 section was first introduced, some of you were moved across automatically, and that has been subject to the McCloud ruling, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment. Don't ask me questions on it. I'm not interested, not at this stage, okay? We need to just focus on the schemes themselves. What it does mean, though, is that if you're in different sections, you can do different things with those sections because they are separate schemes under the umbrella of the NHS. Does that make sense? So 1995 and 2008 are what we call final salary sections. And that means that the pension that you receive from these sections are calculated based on your service and your pay. Now, your service is the length of time that you've been in this particular section for. So not from when you moved into 2015, how long you've been in this section for. It's reduced down for any time that you did part-time working, and it doesn't include any unpaid leave. That is your pensionable service. Your pensionable pay for 1995 is usually your pay in the last 12 months, but it does look back up to the previous 2 years as well, in case there was a period that was higher. This is very important, what I'm about to say next. Write it down in big letters. It is full-time equivalent pay. I'll repeat that. Full-time equivalent pay. So if you go from working 5 days a week to now working 1 day a week, it will not change your 1995 pension because it's full-time equivalent pay. Have we all got that? Good. Okay. So you can see we've got fractions here. Fractions are the accrual rate, and the accrual rate is just a rate at which the benefits grow. So for 1995, we do 1 divided by 80 times by that pay figure that we just talked about, times by your service, and that will give you your annual pension. So if that is £10,000, that is £10,000 per year that you will receive. 1995 also has an automatic lump sum that is payable in addition to the pension, which is 3 times the pension. So if my pension is £10,000 a year, 3 times that means my lump sum is £30,000. Okay. 2008 is very similar. We've got a different fraction. It is 60ths. The pay definition is a little bit different for 2008. It does look back up to the last 10 years. It's a bit complicated. I've got it written down later on the slide for you. Pensionable service is the same though. Length of time in the scheme, reduced for any part-time working or unpaid leave. Pay is also full-time equivalent pay. Full-time equivalent pay. Full-time pay. Got it? Good. Right. So for 2008, 1 divided by 80 times by pay times by service gives us our annual pension again. Now, 2008 does not have a lump sum like 1995 does automatically, but what you can do when you retire, we're going to talk about this in a bit, is choose to swap some pension for a lump sum, and that is called commutation. Okay. Diane, 1/60th is more than 1/80th. Fractions, it's like opposites. The smaller the fraction, the bigger the thing. Think of it like a cake, right? Think we've got a massive cake. It's going to have to be massive. We've got. I'm going to do some actions. Hang on. Let's do this. Think of a cake. So we've got a massive cake like this. Yeah. If you cut that into 80, that would be 80ths. If you cut it into 60, that would be 60ths. The slice, when you cut it into 60, is going to be bigger than it is if you cut it into 80 because you're cutting it into less pieces. Yeah, does that make sense? So the smaller the fraction, the bigger the portion. So you're quite right, a 60th is bigger than an 80th. Complete opposites on fractions. If you can't explain it with cake, it's just not worth explaining it, in my opinion. 2015 then is a career average scheme, CARE. Career average revalued earnings, just call it CARE, it's just too much. So, as we talked about before, it's still a formula. We still have a formula that calculates the pension. Remember our little bar chart? But all we're doing is calculating it each year based on pay in that year, and then it builds up on building blocks, a little bit like our little chart here. Look, blocks, see, fun. Okay, and it's 1/54th. So again, different fraction. So Diane, it's 1/54th, which means it is bigger again than 1/60th and 1/80th by quite some margin on the 80th actually. So it's growing very, very fast. Now, in addition to that, the 2015 section is also linked to inflation plus 1.5%. So that means each year that you're in the 2015 scheme in April, the pension benefits increase by the increase in the consumer price index plus 1.5%. So in April, oh, it is April still, isn't it? This month it increased by 6.7 plus 1.5% because that was the CPI. Last year it increased by 11.6%. So it's growing super, 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 super fast. Now, again, they don't have a lump sum from this section automatically, but what you can choose to do at retirement is swap some pension for a lump sum, and that is called commutation. Okay, so you effectively have two sets of benefits, most of you, in the different sections. Now, the other thing we need to talk about before I'm going to take a breath is normal pension age, or NPA. Right, so this is the bane of my existence. Please all sit upright like meerkats so I know that you are listening. NPA is the normal pension age. The normal pension age is the age at which you can access the pension without it being reduced for early payment. It's not the mandatory age. It's not the age that you have to take the pension. It's not the earliest age that you can take the pension. It's the normal age. It's the age that you can take it without a reduction. So it's typically 60 for 95. It might be 55 if you've got a special category. If you have to ask me what special category is, you haven't got it. It's 60, okay? Because special category is one of those things you know if you've got special class, okay? It's a legacy thing. It doesn't exist for most people now. For 2008, it is 65, and for the 2015 scheme, it is state pension age, as we established before. If you're me, it is 68 or 107, or whatever it works out to be. I'm not working till I'm 68. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. I want my 2015 pension at 60. Hello, NHS Pensions, give it to me. Thank you very much. Yes, Laura, you can have your 2015 pension at 60. Of course you can. But we thought we were going to pay you £10,000 a year at 68. You now want it at 60, which is 8 years early. Yeah, I do. Okay, so we're going to give you £7,100 instead of £10,000 because you're having it 8 years longer. Champion, I'm all right with that, because assuming an average life expectancy, do you know what? I'll still have received the same amount of money. It's just being adjusted down because I want to take it earlier. So come on, please all stop fixating on, I can't take my 2015 pension until I'm 67, because it's not true. And also, those of you who are about to say to me, but it's reduced. Yes, it's reduced. But what have we already established? 1/54th is a much bigger piece of cake than 1/80th. So you have a bigger piece of cake, and you might have to take a bit off because you want it a bit earlier. But that piece of cake could still be bigger than the 1/80th piece of cake. But you don't know until you see the maths. Are we all clear? Good. Right. Swig of tea questions while you're just digesting that. I told you it was an experience. Does the 1995 increase with inflation and CPI every year once in receipt? 1995, once it is in payment, all of the pensions when they're in payment are linked to inflation. Yes, Karen, correct. Diane, we've done that. Alison, 1995, does the annual pension relate to your current pay or what you paid in 95? Keeps your pay link. So both 95 and 2008 will be linked to your current pay. So the pay you are still earning while you're a member of the pension scheme, current pay. Oh, unknown user got there first. Sorry, killed that one. 1995, might it be worth delaying to take it after 60 in case my full-time equivalent salary goes up? Right, possibly, Sally, but it's got to go up a lot. Okay, this question comes up a lot. Somebody said to me today they were 60. I'm sorry if this is you, by the way, on the Facebook group. It was anonymous. They were 60, I think, or 62, and you may be even older. They are due an increment in June 25. So should they wait? And I went, well, I mean, you could, but to get the full benefit of that, you have to be receiving it for 12 months. So that's June 26. In the meantime, you could have received 26 months worth of pension payments. The increase in the pension is not likely to outweigh the money you could have received from those 26 months. It can do if it's small periods of time and it's big increments, it can do, and you do need to look at it carefully, but generally speaking, you need to be a bit careful there. Hello, Kate. Still not gone to netball. If I work 2 part-time jobs at different trusts which equal full-time, does it still count as part-time for 2008? No, it's full-time. It's full-time service because it's total service. Right. 2015 career average since 2015 if you're a 1995 scheme before. Yeah, it's career average for the length of time that you're in the scheme for. You don't get career average from before because you were in 95 before. So does that make sense? Yeah, okay. How does the pensionable age affect the pension? Can you take essentially two pensions? I take a 95 pension when you're 60 and your 2008 when you're 65, or do you have to move it to? No, remember what I said before, they are separate schemes. Do what you want with them separately because they're separate, so they can be separate. Yes. In 2015, where did the additional volunteer contributions sit in the form? Do you mean voluntary contributions? So that depends, Stefano, on what you're doing. If you're doing additional pension, then what the scheme will do is say, if you're paying this much extra contributions, it's going to buy you an extra amount of pension. So when we look at our chart for 2015, this green box here is what you're adding each year. If you were doing additional pension, say you were adding an extra £200 a year, this green box would be bigger because it's adding it in there. So it's included as it works its way through. That's what it would do. Silly question, no such thing, Karen. Is the 95 and 2008 have CPI? Right, 1995 is not linked to CPI until you put the pension into payment. It's only linked to pay, which is a very important point because typically in the public sector, pay does not increase as far as CPI. 2008 does have a CPI link to the pay calculation, yes. Would pension grow quicker if at top of band and deferred CPI rather than imposed low yearly rises excluding if someone? Would that be the case? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you give me an example and I can see what you mean? Sorry. Is 60 the minimum in 2015 or go at 55? You can currently go from 55. Hang on a second. I have a thing. Do I have a thing? Yes, here you go. So these are normal pension age for 2015. I've put 67. It's state pension age as we've established. Mine is 68. Did I mention that? 68. 65 for 2008. 60 for 95. For 95, you can take it from 50. The other schemes, you can currently take them from 55. However, the UK minimum pension age is increasing in April 28 to 57. Now, it doesn't affect 95 and 2008. It's a legal rules thing. I'm not getting into it. But it does mean that for 2015, the minimum pension age is going to increase from 55 to 57 in April 28. So that's just something to watch. The extra... Oh. Hang on. Diane, the extra 1.5% of the 2015 was something I wasn't aware of, but could make up at least for taking it early. Yes, exactly. Jill, how do you know whether it's a good idea to take the 2015 at 60 in terms of amounts of money or leave it to later? You have to weigh it up. I mean, essentially, the way it works is sort of on a broadly equivalent basis. So although it's reduced for taking it early, you should end up with the same amount of money. Now, what you will find if you do the maths is 2015 at 60 is not massively different to 95 at 60, which surprises everyone. So the decisions, and we can't get into it on this session because it's more a pre-retirement session, but one of the decisions is looking at how much do you need at 60? Do you want more money later on when you stop work completely? What are you doing with your finances? All those things will drill into what is the better option for you. And that's why you really need to give it analysis to make sure you're getting the best out of it. If you are currently in a lower paid job than previously, does the lower pension earn at a higher salary? Right, so unless you've protected your pay with a pay protection, it will be calculated on the lower salary if you drop out of those years. So you need to be careful with that. I started nursing in 1987, but my pension estimate says I've worked 34 years. Do student nurse years count? Did you pay pension contributions in your student nurse years? If the answer is no, then no. I had a 20-year break, so frozen 95, not based on final salary, as I understand. Yes, so the 95 at the time would have been calculated at the time that you left and is now linked to inflation, but it's deferred because you're out for so long. Yes, you've got two pensions. You've got 1995 and 2015. Let's talk about the TRS in a minute. 10 years in 94 2001 in Scotland that I cannot merge. Am I correct in thinking I could take that at 55? You can, but it would be reduced for taking it early. Are you going to recover type return? Yes. Does your NHS pension still increase if your salary increases? Yes, because it's current pay. Done that already. Started in 94, so I'm in my 30th year. I am 48, and I just started to think about what best to do with my pension. I have to say 95 scheme, well, actually at 55. Would I be better off transferring it into the 2015 scheme when the time comes? Possibly, probably actually, Melanie. Younger people, I would say usually 55 possibly not, it depends. Again, you'd have to see the figures. Everybody's circumstances are different. We do a lot of modelling, and some people, what we call option A, I'm going to talk about, is better, and some people option B is better. So hang on, I'm jumping ahead to McCloud, so we need to know. If you paid contributions, then your student nurse year should count, so you need to check that, and this comes back to checking your record every year to make sure it is right and nothing is missing. I reduced my hours in October 23. Will I get my 95 lump sum based on my 4-day salary? Right, Alison, let me say it one more time. 1995 is based on full-time equivalent pay. So going part-time does not change the pension. Okay, good. You're more than welcome. I feel like I'm getting 100 miles an hour. I've been paying added years for 10 years. Does that compensate for working part-time? Might do, should do, because it's increasing the service. It should compensate in some way, and you'll see that service being added to the 95 benefits. Right. I've lost my slides now. Hang on. Right. Should we talk about McCloud? Right. Who's heard of McCloud? Yeah. Okay. Very good, everyone. Who knows what it means? Yeah, yeah, okay. A little bit of hit miss. Going to go fast again, okay. Just one more question's come in, sorry, Darren, because it's going to jump off in a second. If I take my 95 pension at 55 with special class, can I still work full-time and claim my 2015? Let's talk about that with partial. All right, I'm coming up with that. Right, so McCloud, right, very fast. Right. McCloud is the name of the nickname, if you like, that's been given to a piece of legislation that's had to be implemented around the way in which the 2015 sections were introduced. So the sorry, I'm just seeing all the emojis in the chat. Don't panic, anyone. So you'll be aware the NHS Pension Scheme introduced a new section in 2015, and so did all of the other public sector pension schemes. So this was not something that was unique to NHS pensions. I think that's really important that we understand that. It was a change to public sector pensions following a wider review that took place in 2010-11, and it's sometimes known as the Hutton Report. Now the outcome of that was that the 2015 sections would be introduced. Okay, now what then happened is when the schemes were introduced on the 1st of April 15, some people moved into them and some people didn't, and some people did, but they did it at a funny date. And what determined which group somebody fell into was two things. Were you a member of the pension scheme as at the 1st of April 2012? And if the answer to that was yes, how close were you to your normal pension age? So if you had more than 13.5 years to your normal pension age, you were automatically moved into 2015 on the 1st of April 15. There was no choice. If you had between 10 and 13.5 years, you would have been moved into the 2015 section, but probably at a later date that was based on your date of birth, somewhere between 2015 and 2022. You're called the tapered group because you were tapered. And then if you were somebody who had less than 10 years to your normal pension age, you didn't move, you stayed in your original section. The problem with this, however, of course, is age discrimination. So the legal challenge was brought forward for it by Judge McCloud. Now, Judge McCloud is a member of the Judicial Pension Scheme. So it's not named after Judge McCloud as being the residing judge in the case, because that would have been a conflict of interest. Remember, all the public sector pension schemes did the same thing, including the judges scheme. I enjoy immensely that a judge took the judges pension scheme to court. Anyway, you figure if anyone's going to know, they're going to know. And they basically said that the way in which the schemes had been introduced was discriminatory on grounds of age. Court of Appeal eventually in 2019 agreed with that. And so the upshot of that is that the Treasury Department in central government have to introduce a remedy that removes the age discrimination. And that's where we get the McCloud remedy from. So it's not unique to NHS pensions. This is not NHS pensions' fault. They have been dealt a dud with this as well. Okay, so we just need to be patient. Sandra, were you informed that you would move schemes? Oh yes, everybody was informed several times over, but I do know what happens a lot with pension communications. It gets filed under B for bin. People don't even read them. Yeah, everybody was informed, and it's been all over everything for years. So yes, sorry, you were. Right, so they also have to run consultations whenever they introduce any changes. They've run consultations about the remedy. So even though the law says, right, you have to fix it, they can't fix it until they've run a consultation. Mad. And we've had about 87 consultations that have been running for the last however many years, and that's why it's taken so long to actually do anything. So before the ruling, you may have been in 95 or 08 and then moved into the 2015 section, either on the 1st of April 15 or at any point in this sort of time lag here between April 15 and April 22. What is happening now is that is being rolled back. So you'll see it being referred to as rollback, and that is happening automatically. I'm going to say that again. Do not ask me about this. It is happening automatically. You do nothing. Okay, but what is happening is that you are going to be rolled back as if you remained in your original section, whether that was 95 or 08, up to the 31st of March 22, and then your initial date of joining the 2015 section is being adjusted to the 1st of April 22. That is happening now. Before anybody writes in there about the TRS does not show this. I'm coming on to that, all right? No. If you get any estimates, though, if you're coming up to retirement in the next 12 months and you ask for an estimate or you get an annual benefit statement, that will show the rollback. If you look at it really carefully, it will say, for example, 1995 benefits up to the 31st of March 22, which means it's included the rollback. Now, there's more. When you then come to take your pension benefits, whenever that is for you, you get given a choice. You don't actually at the moment, but you will. So let's pretend we're 2 years down the line. You will be given a choice, and that choice will be that you have your pension benefits up to March 22 calculated in the 95 or 08 section, and then from April 22 in 2015, or that you have your 9508 benefits up to March 15, and then you would be deemed to have joined the 2015 section from the 1st of April 15. So they are options A and B. Okay, you do not know which one of those is going to give you the higher set of benefits until you see the figures. Okay, so you might want to take your benefits at 60, but remember the pieces of cake. You could still take your 2015 benefits at 60 and they could still potentially be more than the 1995 benefits would be, because the piece of cake was bigger, right? You don't know, right? So if I had £1 for every time somebody said to me, I want my 7 years back in the 95 section, and I'll go, okay, why? Because it's better. Is it? Yes. How do you know? Well, it just will be. Why? Because it's not reduced, right? But it's a smaller amount. So what are we comparing here? Right. So it's really important that you look at it properly when you get the figures to make your decision. For some of you, option A, the longer time in the legacy scheme, will be better, without a doubt. For some of you, the other option will be better. What I can tell you is that they'll be really close. There will not be, there's not thousands and thousands of pounds between them. They are very close in amount, and people are often very surprised because, remember, piece of cake. Okay, so the idea is you'll get both sets of figures as you're coming up to retirement, and you will look at A and you will look at B and you will go, oh, B is better, so I'll do that. That's how I would envisage it working. Now, for those of you who are retiring imminently or have already retired, you didn't get that choice. I know the scheme is going to write to you, hopefully before the end of the year, to say, right, you retired on this basis. You've also had this option. What will you do? And one would assume that you would say, well, if the current option is higher, I'll stay with it. But if the new option is higher, I will move. That is how I would think that is going to work. OK, so nothing for you to do at the moment. But just remember, you do not know which is better until you see the figures. Okay. Right, back to questions. In 2008, if I go part-time in the last 10 years, does it affect my pension? Does that reduce the service? Not in the 2008 section, no, because you're not adding service to 2008 anymore. You're adding it into 2015. So the 2015 pension will be lower because you've got a lower amount of income, but 2008 stays the same. Lisa, I've still not got special class applied to my statement. Been a state member since 1990. I've questioned this and I should have it, but not showing up 55 and TRS. It might not show on the TRS. It doesn't mean you haven't got it, ridiculous as it sounds. Sometimes it doesn't show 55 on the TRS, even they've got it. So long as you've got in writing that you have it, then you're fine. So just get that from the pension scheme. Diane, that's a really good slide to show McCloud. Thanks, Diane. I'll pass that on to Nigel. I've had confirmation that mine has automatically been rolled back, and when I come to retire, I can choose which scheme I want it from. Correct, Diane. You can have another star because you know what you're doing. TRS is total reward statement. Christina, coming to that in a second. Does it apply to deferred pensions too, Dal? It's so long as you were in the scheme at April 2012 and in the scheme after April 2015, then you're caught in those kind of remedy years, and so yes, it would. So 7 years, and this is the maximum as well. Yes, the 7 years between 2015 and 2022 is the years that you can choose. That is it. Right. Could you take the 95 section at 60 and then just wait until NPA take 2015? Right, I'm going to do it again. They are separate schemes. You can do separate things with them. Okay, yes. What happens between now and 2 years, hence in regard to choice of retiring in that period? It might not be 2 years. In fact, it shouldn't be 2 years. It should be later this year, to be honest. But you know, timeframes move. You'll just be to get retired on option A, effectively the rollback, and then you can choose the other option later when it comes if it's better. So just, you know, you're fine. Choosing between 95 and 2015 is difficult because you don't know what you get in 2015 until you are 67. Oh my God, Sally, what are you doing to me? Right, you can still take 2015 at 60 or part of it at 60 under a partial, or you can wait until 67. You can do any of those things. So if you want to choose between 95 and 2015 at 60, get estimates at 60 of both. You can still do that. I'll calm down. Do you have to do 35 years NI to get the NHS pension? No, Luke, that is state pension. Let's do this again. State pension is totally separate to your NHS pension. We just talked about state pension, so you all were aware of it. The two are totally separate. NHS is based on your length of service in the NHS pension scheme. Will you be written to with the figure? Yes, you will. You'll get what's called a remedial service statement, probably in April 25 is the current thinking, but you know, like I say, who knows? Catherine, I've been asked to choose between 2008 and 95 as I moved to 2008, now wondering what is best. Don't know, Catherine, and you've got a month to go to make this decision. We have done a webinar on this. It's on the YouTube channel. Have a look at that. That might help you. Right, that's the same for Stephanie. You guys are using it, leaving this really late. We have been doing analysis for people on looking at this choice too, which is whether you want to go back into 95. I am running out of time to do that analysis. Go and watch the webinar. It's the only thing I can say to you at this point. I'm really sorry, it's too late. God, where are you all coming from? Have you been on the Facebook group as well? There's loads of it on there about that. Go into the search bar on the Facebook group and type in choice 2. If a deferred member in 2008, does the pension amount still grow each year? It does. It increases by inflation, though, not by pay, because you're deferred. If retiring earlier, how long to get a Parisons on 2015 and the scheme for remedy period? Anytime from 2025. I don't know. They have said maybe this summer, but they said April and they keep moving the date. If I don't take the lump sum from 95 scheme at 60, does it remain index linked until I do? No, it doesn't. So unless you're deferred. If you're in the scheme, no, it doesn't. So take it at 60. Why would you not? How early should I ask for figures? 12 months. Will they add the payback we got last year to April 23? If it's backdated, then they will backdate it if it's supposed to be. Okay, good. Right. Total reward statement. Right, I'm going to go really fast on this. Okay, so get your pens ready. Is everybody all right? I've got tea on my heated coaster, Shaz. I'm just going to have a swig if that's all right with everyone. I hope you all realise as well, I am joking with some of it. We're trying to just inject a little bit of, you know, warmth into its pension. It's boring. Right. Jeanette's left. I hope I didn't upset her. Right. Okay. Total reward statement. Oh, hello. Who do we ask for a pension estimate? I asked my payroll and they said they didn't do this. Of course they did. So if in theory, payroll and pensions departments can, not all trusts have somebody who deal with pensions though. You can ask NHS Pensions. If you're on the Facebook group, go to, at the top of the group, there's like grey menu options, which says things like featured posts and stuff. There's one that says files, and there's a document in there that says how to request an NHS estimate. You can look at that. The other thing you can do is, if you remember the website that I showed you at the beginning, there's a detail on there about how to request an estimate, and there's a form you can fill in. In fact, I'll just get it for you now because it's easier for me to do it. Those of you who ask questions on the Facebook group, by the way, and then I appear with this magic link, you know how I got this magic link? Well, that was because I went on the website and just copied and pasted the link. I don't actually have the links all saved in my memory. So, you know, it's quite easy to do. Right, who wants to request an estimate? There you go. mind-boggling. It is, isn't it? Urbo only works for 2015. If I put the year back into 95, what happens with that? So if you've got an Urbo, which only exists in 2015, that is correct. Excuse me. If you have to ask me what an Urbo is, you haven't got one, so don't worry. If you also started doing additional pension after 2015, this is going to get flipped back probably into your legacy scheme. And with Urbo as well, you also get some choices. Do you want it moved to additional pension instead in 95? Do you want a refund? Do you want certain things? They will write to you about that. So what I'll look forward to when those letters go out and everybody compiles on with loads of questions. So just sit tight, they will write to you, okay? It's going to take a bit of time. What Urbo and ABC differences? Right, we do a boosting benefits webinar. Come on that, it's not one for today. How long before retiring is helpful to have a projection completed by us? Well, that depends. I often say to people, you need to be looking at this properly, not necessarily with us, but you need to be looking at this properly 5 years beforehand. Because if in your head you're like, I'm going at 55, and you look at it at 54, and then you then go, oh, balls, I can't. That's quite disappointing, isn't it? So the earlier you look at it, the better it is. But there's no point in paying somebody like us to help you too early because there's too many variables like pay changes, inflation stuff. So 5 years, I would say, is an initial good look, and then probably 18 months or so beforehand again. Not necessarily with us, but just yourself. Who can ask for an estimate? Who can ask for an estimate? Is it only people near retirement? So they'll only provide an estimate if you are within 12 months of your intended retirement date. So yes, essentially. Right, TRS. Your TRS is your total reward statement, England. So your total reward statement is available on the ESR, which is your electronic staff record. Now, some of you in NHS England and Wales have been invited to join the My NHS Pension online. Not all of you have. Please don't get upset and start asking me about that. It's being rolled out region by region. So not everybody's been invited to join it yet. Don't panic. It doesn't mean nobody likes you. It's just that they probably haven't got to your region yet. So just be aware of that, and your employer will contact you kind of at the right time. I'll just give you a quick, if I can I? Bear with me. No, I can't. So you will get access to that. So what will happen is that portal is going to eventually replace the total reward statement. Okay. So what I'm showing you, as I said at the start, is the total reward statement. If you're on the portal, it looks a little bit different, but the labels are the same. Those of you in Scotland, you've got a portal you can log on to already. It looks a bit different. A lot of the labels are the same. And again, the same for Northern Ireland. All right. So I just can't show all of them. It would be very difficult. So we've gone with England and Wales just because there's more of you. Fair or not. Right. So your total reward statements shows you things like how much you get paid, your employer contributions, the value of your benefits, all sorts of exciting stuff, any salary sacrifice schemes you run, all those sort of wonderful things. If you keep going through that statement, there is a pension statement tab, and it's usually around pages 14 and 15. And it shows you your pension statements. So you have a tab for each section that you are in. So if you don't know which section you're in, then you can find the tabs, and you might have a tab that says 95 and a tab that says 2015, and that means they're the sections that you are in. Okay, so I'm just going to show you very quickly the 95 statement first, and then 2015. I'm not showing you 2008 because it's sort of the same as 2015, so it's just going to be a lot of repetition. So you've got a box at the top that gives you your membership number. Now, your membership number is a number that is unique to you. It will be the same across all of the sections that you are in, and it is your unique identifier for NHS pensions. It usually starts with your year of birth. So if you were born in 1980, like I am, then my first 2 digits on mine will be 80. And then it will be some random made up number. Okay, that is your membership number. You can also find that on the bottom left hand corner, usually of your payslip if you work in a trust. It's sometimes referred to as an SD number. So where you see your membership number, again, the other regions you have membership numbers as well. That is the number that the scheme uses to identify you. It will then have the date you first joined the NHS Pension Scheme. So those of you who think that your student nursing days are missing, for example, you need to look at this date. Does this date look right? This is why that's important. It'll have the normal pension age for this section, which should be 60 or 55, although as we mentioned earlier, for some people, for some reason, nobody really understands. Although you might have special class status and it's 55, it is showing as 60. It is worrying, but just get confirmation from NHS Pensions that they have you as special class and you should be fine. But yeah, just check that. The pay is the current full-time equivalent pay, because remember, and I'll say it again for the 187th time this evening, 1995 is based on your full-time equivalent pay. It doesn't matter if you work 37.5 hours or you work half an hour. It will use the full-time equivalent pay, okay, and that's what that will be. It will also say updated to. Now, updated to might say 31,315 at the moment, because the total reward statement is pre-rollback. So a little story for you about the total reward statement. It gets updated in the summer around August time for up to the previous March. So at the moment it's still updated to March 23. March 23 predates the McCloud ruling, which was October 23. So therefore your total reward statement at the moment doesn't affect the rollback. It doesn't show you the rollback. It will do hopefully this year, but it doesn't at the minute, okay? But it will show you the date that you moved to the 2015 section, okay? It then shows you some numbers. Okay, so it's going to show you standard benefits and maximum lump sum. Scotland, you don't have the maximum lump sum bit on your statement, sorry. You do still get a maximum lump sum, it just doesn't show on the statement. Right, so it will show you a pension. So this is the annual amount of pension. So for this person, it's 6,569, and they will get paid that to them every year until they die. Their lump sum is 3 times the pension amount, if you remember that from before, and it is tax-free, totally tax-free, everyone. Lump sums are tax-free. I'm sick of this question as well. Tax-free, so long as it's not more than £268,275, the lump sum that the scheme pays to you is tax-free. There is an adult dependent pension, as we talked about earlier, spouse or partner. There you go. So if you die, that's how much is paid to them. It talks about your reckonable membership. So your reckonable membership is the service that we use in the calculation. So it's the length of time you've been in the section, reduced for any part-time working in that section, and also any disallowed days or unpaid leave. So it also then gives you calendar length. So if you've only ever been full-time and had no breaks, these two should be the same, but quite often they're a little bit different, as we can see here. It then gives you, in England only and Wales, a hypothetical annuity cost. What is this? So a hypothetical annuity cost is basically saying if you had the same level of benefits that you have in the NHS Pension Scheme in one of those defined contribution schemes we talked about earlier, this is how much the pot of money would need to be in that scheme. This person, I can tell you now, has not paid £323,000 into their pension, and it's just to give you an idea of the value of the benefits. Doesn't actually really mean anything. As we said before, or did we? You can choose to swap pension for lump sum. So they're giving you the maximum lump sum, which in this case is £35,000. So the lump sum's gone from 19 to 35, but you can see the pension has come down. It's gone from 6.5 down to 5. The maximum lump sum is just that. It's the maximum. So you can do anything up to the maximum. It's not either or, okay? You can pick a number in between. Excellent. Adult dependence pension doesn't change regardless of what you do with the lump sum. Okay, have we got it? That is 1995. Any questions before we do 2015? Told you this was good. Struggling to access the statements, TRS is blank. So a few of you have said this, I can see this already. The ESR is run by your employer. So you need to go to your employer and your pensions officer within your employer to say, why is it blank? What is missing? It'll be a data issue. So again, you can also ask for an annual benefit statement if your TRS is not showing. I'm just ticking off because we've done a few of them. I've said that. Hopefully, you'll get the new access. So Jane P's just said here she's been given access to the new access. So yes, which replaced the TRS. So yes, you should hopefully get that. But again, you need to be checking it every year. And if it's not showing, you need to be going, why is it not showing? It might be a data issue. What is going on with my data? Need to find that out. Go and find it out. Don't just sit back on your laurels and go, oh, it's not there. It's fine. Because to me, if it's not there, it's not fine, really, is it? If you had a period of half pay due to sickness, does it affect the pension? No. So long as you're paid, it doesn't affect the pension. If you had any unpaid leave, it does. Lisa, I'm buying additional years. Will it be added to my TRS? It's already included. Additional years in 95 are added incrementally each year, so it will be going up very slightly each year, including the added years. If you compare this year's to last year's, you'll show the service should be more because of the added years. Can I buy additional years for 95? Juliet, no, you used to be able to. It ceased in 2008, but anybody who was still doing it has been able to do it. You can do additional pension for 2015. Good. Right. 2015. Ready? Membership number. Same as 95. Same rules apply. Date you first joined this section. So this would probably be April 15 at the moment for a lot of you. As we've said, doesn't affect rollback, but it will be blah, blah, blah. Normal pension age, state pension age. So 67 or 68 if you're me. Did I mention that? This is your actual pensionable pay. So if you're part-time, it uses actual pay. So it'll be the part-time pay. But otherwise, it should be the same as what we've got on the 95 section. Updated too. I'm hoping if you're all looking at your statement, or you can now, it says 2023. It might not, but I really hope it does. Same sort of thing. Standard benefits, annual pension. So if I retire tomorrow, I get £4,497 per year every year that I'm alive. No automatic lump sum. Do you remember that from earlier? Again, adult dependent pension. In the event of my death, there's this much payable. Hypothetical annuity costs, see earlier comments. But you can take a lump sum from the 2015 section. The maximum this person could take is £19,000. But if they choose to take that, the pension reduces from 4 to 2. So that's one of the things we've got to think about. But the lump sum is tax free. Again, it's the maximum, so you can choose anything up to the maximum. It's not either or. Got it? Now, the other thing that you've got at the back of the 2015 statement, because it's calculated each year based on your pay each year, is it shows you your pay each year. It's very helpful. So you can check that to see if it's right, and it's showing you how your pension is building up each year. Okay, good. Any questions? My TR95 section TRS is updated to 2019. Why is this? Right, let's go back to McCloud. Unknown user, where you listing? You must be in this category where, as at April 2012, you had between 10 and 13 and a half years to your normal pension age, and so you moved at a later date, sometime between this date and this date. There are a group of you who are in that middle group would have moved at a later date, and that must be you. If you check your date of birth, that's probably what it is. What happens to the lump sum if I die in service with regard to my spouse? There is no lump sum payable from the pension, but remember, you've got your death in service lump sum, which is a multiple of pay. So that's what happens. Is there no automatic lump sum with 2008 either? No, Dan. See earlier slide. Shall we go back to it? And here it is. No, not that one. I lied. There you go. Only by commuting. No additional cash. Same as before. Karen, the guidance says takes between 20% and 100% of their benefits. Karen, this is partial retirement and we are not doing that yet. So please wait. Jane, I was a practitioner for 13 years and then a hospital doctor. So could that be why I cannot see a TRS? Oh, more than likely, Jane. Ask them for an annual benefit statement instead. Sorry, hello, Jackie. I don't know, Jackie. There's lots of unknowns. I don't know who you all are. What should the revaluation figures be? How do you know if they are right? The revaluation figures will be right. If I can tell you anything, it will be that. These figures here are going to be right. That's all I can tell you. They're the CPI from the previous September plus 1.5%. You can Google it. Do you remember Google mentioned that at the beginning? If you Google it, will tell you, but actually they are right. Looking at my 20. Oh, can everybody see it's Jackie? It's just me. Oh, it's because of Excel. Sorry, Jackie. Looking at my 2015 pensionable earnings, it's showing full-time, not my part-time earnings. Talk to your employer. It might also be that you've overpaid contributions as well, so that would be nice because you would get a refund. But yes, you need to talk to your employer. I'll say it again, your employer owns this data, so it is your employer, their payroll, that you need to speak to if it's wrong. Revaluation is CPI plus 1.5%. Remember what we said in that chart? Going back to the chart. Where's the chart? Each year in the 2015 scheme, you get some pension. The following year, you've got pension and they revalue it. They increase it by inflation and they keep going. That's the orange bars on here. That is what revaluation is, Stephanie. Jenny, I asked the pension team about my annual allowance benefit statements. It's shown all my jobs in the spreadsheet, but the table of standard benefit stops at 2018. Is this due to a type 2 form issue? I would say so, Jenny. If you're a practitioner and some of the forms haven't gone in or there's problems with PTSD, that is probably what it is. Yes. I'd quite like to be unknown. My question, I can see you as unknown. It must be, I don't know what that is. Okay, so that was TRS. So it was a whistle-stop tour. It just means trying to help you that when you look at it, you can sort of understand what it's trying to tell you now. And remember, the benefits on it should be going up each year. It's kind of why we're in the pension, isn't it? If you start going down, that's a problem. Now, your TRS doesn't keep previous copies either. So you should download a copy and save it somewhere so that you can compare it with previous years. What I would also suggest you do, if you've never checked your data before, lady earlier who said she hadn't looked at it in 34 years, request from NHS Pensions an annual benefit statement, because within that you get what's called a membership statement, and that will show you where you worked and when and what hours you worked, so you can go back and check that your full history is there. So I'll definitely do that, because once you've done that, you know then that it's all right. So please do that as well. Why does my pensionable pay come up as 10k less than my actual pay on my TRS? So pensionable pay is not all pay. Pensionable pay is basic pay. It can include unsociable hours. It doesn't include any overtime worked over full-time hours. It doesn't include waiting list initiatives. It does include high cost living allowance or London waiting, as it used to be known. There are some elements of pay that are not pensionable. So it could be that. You'll need, I don't know though, Laura, you'll need to sort of double check. And again, this is why looking at pay slips is really important. If you're a clinician and you work more than 10 PAs, only anything up to 10 PAs is pensionable. If my NHS pension TRS is blank, who is responsible to add the data? Initially, I'd start with your employer and say, I can't see it. What's happened? Can I have a benefit statement? Joanne's going to come to the next 10 webinars. Right, what I'll say, just to reassure everybody, this is very fast because there's a lot to tell you. You are not going to leave this session and suddenly know everything and remember everything I told you. It's a repetition process. It's kind of repetitive rather than do it once and that's it. So if you take a little bit away from what we've done today, that's great. That's more than you knew before, and then you come back or you watch it back or you just give itself time to sink in. Okay, you're probably going to leave here with more questions than you came with, and if you did, I've done my job, because what I've done is I've made you aware of things that you didn't know about that you need to know about. Okay, so do that. I'm going to talk at the end as well about how to use the resources on Facebook. I'm going to show you some things because I think it's important you do that as well. Diane, I've just done this, Laura. Oh, you got your membership statement, Diane. Oh, Diane, hang on a second. There we go. More stars for Diane. Best time of year to download the TRS after August, because they run an update in August for Vera. So anytime after August. Bye, Kate. Enjoy netball. Hope you win. Diane, April's probably a bit early. I would say do it in August. That's when they run the updates. Can you post a link to this recording? I will. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. If you go onto YouTube and look for Pengage, you can subscribe and it will tell you when it's on there as well. What am I asking pensions for to check my working years? An annual benefit statement, Jenny, with a membership statement. Please and thank you. Oh, thanks, Sandra. I'm still here, not gone yet. Right, are we good? Right, very quickly, just to confuse Joanne a little bit more before she needs to go and lie down with a migraine in a dark room. Pension options. Now, this is not a pre-retirement session. I want to just reiterate that. So if you come on the pre-retirement session, we talk about the pension options in loads of detail, how to fill in the forms, what you need to consider and all that kind of stuff. This is not that, okay? So all I'm going to do is very quickly, hi Sandra, is very quickly skim through some of the options. Again, just to put it there, and you've kind of then got a little thing in your hand, that thread that you can pull on. Okay, so this is not going to tell you everything you need to know if you're retiring. Just, come on the pre-retirement one instead, which is next month, I think. We do one a month and we sort of rotate them. Right, so when we're looking at wanting to take our pension, there are 6 key things that I think you need to look at. When you want to retire, will the pension be paid early? Because obviously, as we said, that affects the amount. What are we going to do about our lump sums? Tax, the state pension, we've talked about that already today, and something called know your number. So the first thing is when to retire. Now, the average UK retirement age for women is 64 and for men it's 65. As we said earlier, you can take some of your benefits from 50 or 55, but they are reduced for early payment. So when you're looking at the when, it's just understanding the figures and the numbers. Do not fixate on the reduction. It's because it's a real negative way of looking at it, and it will really influence your decision without actually having any information, because it's like an unconscious bias that takes over. So what happens is people, I'll do my voice again. I can't take my 2015 until I'm 67 because if I take it at 60, it's reduced. And so what? Well, it's less. Well, it's less than what? Well, then it is in 67. Yeah. But what does that mean? How much is it? Can you afford to go? What do you want to do? These are all the things that you've got to be looking at. So, of course, the numbers are important and affordability is important. But if we start the conversation with I can't, then we're not going to get very far, are we? What we need to be saying is, right, Laura, I want to be going at 60. Give me a report, which I will do, that tells me what it's going to be at 60, and I'll see if I can do it. Can I do it? Maybe I can. Maybe I can go at 59, or maybe I'm going to wait till 62. But actually, that's all right, because I can take that bit and leave that bit till later. We need to start with this is what I want to do. And then you can look at, can you afford to do it? But if we go in with the I can't, then it's just never going to happen, is it? So one of the things that we've got to think about is lump sums. Now, as I said before, 95 you get a standard lump sum. The other two you don't. But with all of the sections, you can choose to swap pension for a lump sum, which is called commutation. So if you see that written on an estimate, they call it commutation example on an estimate. What they're basically saying is this is the maximum lump sum you can have. That's one of the decisions that you'll have to make. Now, the factor that they use to swap pension for lump sum is 12 to 1. So that means for every £12 of lump sum I take, I lose £1 off my pension. If we forget about tax for a minute, that means if I live for 12 years, I'll have had better value for money than taking the pension rather than lump sum. However, as we know, the lump sum is tax-free. All of it, so long as it doesn't exceed 268,275. And because there's been lots of comments in the last 2 days about people saying they have to pay tax on their lump sum, and I don't know who has started this, but it needs to stop. The pension is potentially subject to income tax, but the pension increases by inflation each year, and it also might come down to what do you want to do with the lump sum. So if you want to pay off your mortgage, for example, that pays off one of your biggest household expenditures that you're probably paying interest on. So it doesn't always just translate in that kind of sense. It's very much a case of an individual decision, and you've just got to think about what do you want to do with it. But it's one of the things you will have to consider. Just very quickly, income tax. So pensions are classed as earned income by HMRC and are subject to income tax assessment. Now, another thing that people obsess about is I don't want to be in the 40% tax bracket. I mean, I'll tell you, to be honest with you, I would love to be in the 40% tax bracket. But you know why? Because it means I'm earning more. So we need to try and move away from this thing of I don't want to take my pension and my pay because I might drift into the 40% tax bracket. Income tax works on thresholds. So if I'm in the 40% bracket, it means my earnings have gone over £50,270. But I'm only paying 40% on the bit that's over £50,270. I don't suddenly pay 40% on everything, because I mean, nobody would do that, would they? So if in a worst case scenario, if all of your pension is 40% taxed, you still get 60% of it. Whereas if you don't claim it, you don't get any of it. So tax is important, and if you've got complicated tax affairs, it does need a bit more thought than that. But again, the decision around I'm not taking my pension even though I can have it because I will pay more tax is ridiculous. We are letting the tax tail wag the pension's dog, and we cannot do that. It's very much like if I said to Diane, where are you, Diane? Hello, Diane. You've done amazing at work. I would like to give you a £10,000 pay rise. I would assume that Diane is not going to say to me, that's really nice, Laura, I really appreciate it, thank you. But I don't want that extra pay rise because I'll have to pay more tax. Nobody does that, do they? Anybody here refuse a pay rise because they might have to pay more tax? I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. No, exactly. So we need to get, again, it's these negative thoughts that we've got about these things that we're not fully understanding. It doesn't matter that you don't fully understand it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to move away from the negative thoughts and find out the information to make sure that we do understand to then make the correct decision. I know the questions are there. I'm coming to them. I just want to know your number. So know your number is really important. Okay, right. So the amount of people who say, all right, I want to retire at 60. And I go, okay, great. And I'll go, how much money do you need? And I'll go, what? And I'm like, well, how much pension do you need? What? Right, well, you've decided you want to retire at 60, yeah? So you got to pay for stuff still? Yeah. So how much do you need? Don't know. Right. This is a problem then, isn't it? How do we do this? So you need to, what we call know your number. You need to know how much money, how much net income you need to be able to retire, because your expenditure changes. So my expenditure now at 44 is not going to be my expenditure at 60. My mortgage will be paid off. I will have got rid of the teenager, I hope. You know, there will be different things. We might only run one car then because we don't need to run two and all these kind of things. So your expenditure changes. So but you need to know how much you're roughly going to need to then be able to work out what you can do. the amount of people who make a decision and have absolutely no idea how much money they need, it's incredible. It's like me going to my husband, hi, I've got a new job, and he's going, that's great. And it's great. It's you know, work-life balance is amazing. Like, I just never have to do any work. It's great. And he's like, oh, that's really, really good. Excellent. So what does it pay? Excuse me? What does it pay? What? Well, you need to be paid. Yeah. How much is paid? Don't know. Who's taking job offers, not knowing how much they get paid? None of you. That's who. Right. So can we make sure that, again, we put the time into, no, imagine if I did that. Just imagine what would happen. Awful. So it's really important. So I am joking. I've been really glib about it because it's important, and I want you to remember this. I want you to go and go, that lunatic pensions woman actually did make quite a good point at least once in that webinar. Right. Let me do the questions. Everybody's leaving. This is sad. So, Luke, you get both pensions at 67 or 104. You get your pensions, Luke, when you choose to take your pensions, whatever that is for you. If potentially losing access to ESR, how to get the latest pension updates has not yet offered access to my pension as it's still in NHS. But you will be offered access to my pension. It's being offered to everybody, but it's on it's regional, so it's coming in the next couple of months. If you retire before your normal pension age, is your lump sum reduced by a percentage, or is it 3 times your already reduced annual pension? Good question, Lisa. So we calculate the pension, and then we calculate the lump sum of 3 times the pension, and then we reduce the pension by a factor, and we reduce the lump sum by a different factor. So the reduction on the lump sum is not as big as it is on the pension. Lorraine, as nurses, we all have special class, so can take options at 55. Does that mean it will be subject to a reduction as before 60? No, if you've got special class status, then that enables you to take the 95 pension from 55 without a reduction. But just be aware, not all nurses have special class status. So it's only those who joined the scheme before March 1995 and were qualified and have continued in a qualifying position since. But if you've got special class, then yes, you can effectively access the benefits unreduced. That's fine. Bye. Yes, and again, no gap of more than 5 years. So that retains the special class. If you have a gap of more than 5 years, then you lose it. Quite niche, but do you do a session covering pensions and redundancies? Not at the moment, but we could do, maybe. Or anyone in the Scottish scheme. So Tracy, I'm not going to read it out. Tracy's put a statement up there for Scottish because they haven't done any recent statements. Your statements are up to 2022. Do you have a pre-retirement session on YouTube? Yes, I do, Kate. Go and find it. How much do you need to retire? Yeah, there is just on these statistics of this link that's been put in. It's quite a good link, but they only actually surveyed 139 people, so it's not really set in stone. You need to work it out for yourself in your own position. Could I ask about slide 43? Do you have any budget templates to assist working out your number? Joanna, that's a great question. I don't personally, but the reason being is we use one on Money Helper. So if you go to moneyhelper.com or .co.uk, they have loads of financial support on there, and they have a really good budget tool that you can use. So I would use that if you're asking for a recommendation. Right, okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look at the retirement options very quickly, which is partial and retire and return, and then we're going to come to an end and I'll see any other questions that we've got. Okay, so partial retirement and retire and return are 2 different things, and they get mixed up quite a lot. So what will generally happen on a session like this is I'll start talking about partial retirement and somebody will start asking me about retire and return, and I will like, stop it, that is not what I'm talking about. So partial retirement has always been available for people in 2008 and 2015, but it became newly available for 1995 members from October 2023 in England, Wales and Scotland, and in Northern Ireland it's become available from this month. Okay, now what it means is that you can take some or all of your pension benefits and continue in NHS employment without a break. So it's continuous service. So you retain your terms and conditions, you retain all your employment rights, and you continue to build up benefits in the 2015 scheme. When we say all or some of the benefits, it's between 20% and 100% of the benefits, okay, and you can choose. Most people will do a scheme, like I'll take the 95 benefits because I'm 60, for example, but you can do a proportion of that if you want to. The rules that sit around partial retirement are that you must reduce the pensionable pay by at least 10% through a change in terms. Okay, so that can be, and it's the pensionable pay that you've actually earned in the last 12 months, and you have to reduce it by a minimum of 10% for the next 12 months. So you could work less hours, as an example, that will lower your pay. You could drop a band, you could have extra unpaid leave. There is such a thing as what we call a payroll adjustment, or you could do a split contract. So that means 90% of your pay is pensionable and 10% is not. Now, all of those decisions sit with your employer. And so you need to get agreement from your employer as to what you are able to do. So, for example, if you all wanted to go and work 50% of your hours, that might give you employer problem. Some employers don't like just the 10% reduction because they can't backfill 3.75 hours. So they might ask you to drop a day because they can possibly backfill that. So it just depends on what's happening in your employer. So you need to get a copy of your flexible working policy because an hours reduction is a flexible working request, and you also need to get a copy of your retirement policy so that you can see what the process is within your organisation. It's a great opportunity to be able to take, for example, all of the 95 benefits, carry on working and carry on building up 2015 benefits. So Karen said, quite rightly, the guidance states between 20% and 100% of their pension benefits in 1 or 2 drawdown payments. How does this look if taking the minimum lump sum in 95 at 55 with special class? So what we're saying is if your 95 pension, 100% of your 95 pension is £10,000, the standard lump sum is 30,000. That's what you would get if you took 100% of your 95 benefits. If you wanted to take 50% of your 95 benefits, then your pension would be £5,000 and the lump sum would be £15,000. So it's proportionate to the percentage benefit that you're taking. But if you want to take all of your 95, then you would take 100% of your 95. The lump sum is then just a separate option within that as to whether you keep the minimum or the maximum, if that makes sense. Oh, Diana, you can't be the only 2008 person in here, Diana. I'm sure you're not. Laura, just to clarify, when do we make the decision about rollback? So the rollback is going to happen automatically, and they'll give you a remedial statement in 2025. You'll get a letter about it formally. There's lots of other communications coming out between times, but when you make your decision about whether you want that to stay as rollback or put it back into 2015, you make that decision when you retire. Okay. So partial is great. You keep your terms and conditions, no break in service. It's really important. The other one then is retire and rejoin, as it is now known. This is effectively where you resign from your post, you claim your 95 or 2008 benefits or whichever it is, you come back to work in the NHS, either in your previous role or same role, and you have a new contract of employment and you can continue building up benefits in the 2015 section. You have to have a gap of at least 24 hours between leaving and coming back, and some trusts will insist on a longer period of time. If your trust is insisting on a longer period of time, it is likely to mean that you will also come back on different terms and conditions. So that means, for example, that you might have a lower annual leave entitlement to what you've already built up because you've broken your service, and so therefore you've also broken your employment rights. So again, retire and rejoin is good, but if you can do a partial where you get to protect your employment rights, that is usually a better protected option for the employee. But again, you need to get your trust policies or your employer policies so you can see what they are and what that means. Okay, so they're the difference between them. So questions that you were asking me before, if you reformulate your questions now, you know what you know. Can I take my 95 pension in full at 55 and carry on working in 2015, contributing to 2015? The answer is yes, so long as you do a partial retirement or a retire and return. You can't take the pension and continue working without doing one of those options. Okay, that's just something to bear in mind. And I would say to people as well, I don't know how far away you are at this, you need a 12 months running at this. You need to get estimates. They're currently taking 40 days. You need to know your number and do your budgeting. You need to talk to your employer about what they will and won't support. You might have to negotiate that. Pension schemes need a 4 months notice with your forms of your intention to retire. You need to walk, do not run, because you need to make the right decisions, but you've got to give yourself plenty of time to do this as well. It's not on, oh, it'll happen tomorrow, because it won't. And that's just being realistic. Okay. Right, questions. From a budget, got some 2008 people. Okay, I think Dan's all right now. From a budget holder manager perspective, can the 10% reduction of hours be allocated elsewhere? They are not lost, are they? No, it's up to you. So all the pension scheme, so we've got to remember we've got two things going on here. The pension scheme rules are that the individual has to reduce their pensionable pay by 10%. You as managers or budget holders, you then choose how you manage your resource as you would do normally. Now, what can happen in England, it's not been confirmed in Scotland yet, is that let's just choose someone. Let's choose Lorraine. So let's say Lorraine wants to reduce her pensionable pay, so she's going to work 90% of her hours. She can then work the other 10% of her hours as extra, and that won't count towards her pension for partial retirement in that first 12 months. So in theory, you can still have people working the same hours, just in a different way. And there's loads of things that are available here. What's causing people a lot of issues is employers are just not educated on what they're able to do. But no, you don't lose them. It's still in your budget. It's just that the pension scheme has a requirement for a 10% reduction in pensionable pay. I've gone through the flow chart and I think I should have special class. Can I check on challenges? Yes. First thing to do, contact your employer, payroll, ask them if they think you've got special class status, or contact NHS Pension. Start there and see what they say, and then move on from there. What if you are affected by McCloud? How much should you take? As much as you want, Barbara, because you'll just get the other McCloud option, and if it's better, you'll switch to that, and if it's not, you'll stay where you are. I mean, it's as simple as that. There's a lot of drama around that there doesn't need to be, really. So for 2015, the longer you're in the pension, the more you'll get per year. Exactly, Luke, and it's the same for all of them. That's how they build up. Bye, Lorraine. Hello, Pamela. 43 years, 109 days in the 95 section, and I'm taking this in June at 55, but it has a maximum of 40 years. Do I lose the 3 years, 109 days? Pamela, do you have mental health officer status, Pamela? I just need to wait for Pamela's response. Please hold, everyone. Yes. Okay, then you will be capped at the 40 years, but what you might find then in that instance is that you want 1995 up until March 15, and then the rest of it in the 2015 section, because there's no cap, and that will probably give you a higher set of benefits. We've done lots of modelling for people on that scenario, and they thought that because of the doubling years in 95 they would actually be better off, but they're not because of the cap. So yeah, so you might actually find that you would be better having the longer period of time in 2015. That will give you a better overall outcome. Sally, if I purchase additional pension up to a maximum of £8,036 in 2015, how does it get allocated? What formula? All right, we're not understanding what additional pension is. I think you need to watch the boosting benefits webinar. If you're effectively what you're saying there, the maximum £8,000 is the amount of extra annual pension you can buy. So that means if your 2015 pension is currently £10,000, it's now £18,000 a year because you bought £8,000 per annum of pension. Okay, that would cost you in the region of about 90 grand to do that. What it does is there's a calculator, it's currently offline because they're updating the factors, that says if you pay this much, this is how much extra pension you get, and it's based on a factor which is age related. Go and watch the boosting benefits webinar, it will give you more information about that. How do you find out the percentage deduction if you retire early? So do you remember the website that we talked about at the beginning? And I said you can find everything on the website. And the first example I gave you was the NHS Pensions Early Retirement Factors. That is how you find them. You can also find them on the Facebook page. I'm going to show you where you can find things on there in a minute. But you can also just Google it, and if you Google NHS Pensions Early Retirement Factors, they will come up, which I have just done there while I was talking to you, because as I said before, I don't have them always to hand. And there you go. That should take you to them. What impact do salary sacrifice lease cards have on any pension? Okay, so salary sacrifice is where you swap pay for a benefit. So let's say I've got a car and it's £10,000 a year is the value on the car. If my pay was £50,000, my pay is now £40,000 because I've sacrificed some of it for the car. That means that my pensionable pay is now also going to be £40,000. It means that in these instances, my 95 pension could go down, and it means the rate at which my 2015 pension builds up is lower. So long as you stop a salary sacrifice at least 12 months before you take your 95 pension, it will not affect your 95 benefits because the pay goes back up again. You've got to have a full year at that. But it will mean that the way that the benefits have been building up in 2008 and 2015 is lower. And so you need to make sure that you understand that before doing it. There doesn't seem to be much different between partial retirement and joint. The main two things, Helen, are you can take some of the pension under partial, whereas under retire and return you have to take all of it. And the second thing is your employment rights are protected under partial and they might not be under retire and return. You might also find that some employers won't let you do a retire and return at the moment because that's effectively resigning and coming back, and they've got a recruitment freeze at certain levels, and so they won't let you do it. Some also only let you come back for a certain amount of time, like 12 months, and some only let you come back on a lower band. You need to read the policies of your local employer to find out what the differences are. Do you do a session on ERLO? It's under boosting benefits, Diane, if you can watch that. We've got a webinar, I think, in a couple of months, which is you can find on the website as normal, or you can find the pre-recording on the YouTube channel. You are more than welcome. Can you nominate a minor for death in service? You can nominate anyone you like for death in service. It doesn't matter. If you have special class status and are going to partially retire in January, are you better to put McCloud to 95 or transfer to 2015? It's going to depend, Helen, but I would say if you've got special class in 95 and you want to take it at 55, it's probably going to be better having that years in the 95 section because you're in a circumstance where you can take it without a reduction. So it's probably going to be better, but don't know exactly. Right. Okay, 7 minutes past 8, as promised, I overran. At the back here, we've got some links to some resources, to our blog and our website, the Facebook group, and so on. I'm also now going to show you the Facebook group. But first, here are the early retirement factors I was telling you about. Okay, where have we gone? Facebook, right. This is the Facebook group. Mine might look a little bit different to yours because remember, I'm the moderator and the admin on the site. So look, 13 things have happened whilst I have been on a webinar. You can see we've got 17,500 members. Right, you can see this is the top of the page. Now, not all of yours will look exactly the same because it depends what device you're on. But we've got featured and we've got files. And these are the things that I'll talk about the most. If you go into featured, featured is where I will have written a post and then I will have pinned it into featured. So you might remember I did one this week about minimum pension age. I've done one about partial retirement. I've done lots about partial retirement actually. I've done some about special class statuses in there, pension increases. So all the kind of posts that have got useful content, you will find them in the featured posts. So you might have to scroll. I mean, it doesn't take long, guys, but you might have to. Also, we've got a file section, and in files, we've got a retirement process flow. So if I just open this for you, if it is going to, yeah, of course it's not. No, it's not going to open because it's opening as an image. But if you open that, that talks to you about the steps you need to take for retirement. It's got the AW8 notes. It's got some fact sheets and supplementary stuff that we've put together. So things like what is special class. We've got the early retirement factors. We've got how do I request an estimate. So there's loads of stuff that I pop in the files as well that also comes up as a post. So you need to use those. I'm just going to go back to home a second. This as well is your friend. Okay, so if you want to know about boosting benefits webinar, you go to the magnifying glass and you type in boosting benefits and it will bring up a post about the boosting benefits. It will bring up the webinar that we did in February. It's then giving you the link to the webinar that we did in February. It's giving you some others. So you need to use these on the page because these are your friend. And if I don't approve a post, it's probably because I've had the question 800 times already on the page. So if we want to know what special class status is, we just go special class status. And then it will bring up all the posts. So you can read the post and you can read the answers, or you can read the featured post that will come up that I've done before. So there's loads of information on there for you where you can get like snippets and bite-sized stuff, but you need to make sure that you use the functions that's available for you because they're there to help you. Okay, so that's really important as well. I'm just going to jump back to the slides before I finish. So we've got some links there. Scottish people, we've got some links for you as well. And then these are my contact details and Gilly's contact details. I would say don't ring us. It's an entirely pointless exercise because we're always doing something. But if you email us, we will get in touch. But there are my contact details if you need them as well. Right, let me just go back to the questions. If you've got to go, that's absolutely fine. But I just want to make sure that I've covered off the questions. Who do I contact if I'm unable to get any pension statements on the ESR? Payroll. Thanks, Sally, for putting the link to the YouTube on there. That is excellent. I'm taking this webinar. You can only move pensions forward to other years and not backwards. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you do salary sacrifice after taking 1995 to reduce pensionable pay as well? No, you can do a salary sacrifice, of course you can, but it won't make any difference to your pensionable pay. There's an exclusion on people using salary sacrifices for that, sorry. Going forward, will having a car salary sacrifice not make a difference to 2008 as we no longer contribute? It reduces reckonable pay, Felvera. Remember, it's the current pay that we're still linked to, so it might make a difference. I can't believe you do all these webinars for free. You're welcome. I still haven't drunk my tea, but it's all right because I've still got my heated coaster. You are more than welcome. Christine, thank you, Laura. You're the Oracle. Do you know one of my clients used to call me the Loricle? We did think we might reinvigorate that. You are more than welcome. I know it's fast. I know you've got lots of questions. Please don't panic. Do you offer paid individual service? Yes, we do. There is, I'll give you a link actually on our website. You can inquire and it will send you a standard response with an estimated fee based on the information that you have given us. I'm just going to say at the moment, we are inundated with work at the moment, so you might have to wait a few weeks. That is the only thing. 4 weeks, we're sort of saying to people, you might have to wait before we can start. Oh, hang on, sorry, I'm just, blah, blah, blah. It says on the pension website, normal pension age 2016 is 65, or state pension age later. Yeah, that's right, Luke, because some people's state pension age was 65. So what they're saying is it's 65 or whatever the state pension age happens to be. So some people that have retired last year, their state pension age was 65, but your state pension age is different. So that's right. That's absolutely correct what it says. You're more than welcome, Diane. Oh, thanks, Star. Hi Lisa, I'm not on Facebook. Can I access all of this info on the website? So some of the info is on the website, not all of it, I'll be honest with you. We are in the process, if you're interested, in developing a member zone on the website, which we hope to have up at September time. I'm not promising that. So there'll be more information and you can like log in and access stuff on the member zone, but that's being developed at the moment. Well done, Christina, you're here now, that's the main thing. The Facebook group is NHS and public sector pension support. So generous of you to run these sessions. You're more than welcome. So I have a glass of wine. I'm going for a glass of wine. It's open. I've got to finish it, right? I can't leave it open for too long. You're more than welcome, Anne. Thank you so much. You're welcome. You're welcome, everyone. Yeah, it's a problem, Janice. People often go, I'm not a pensions advisor. You don't need to be a pensions advisor to give people information. You can at least direct them to information, can't you? You are all very welcome. Will the Q&A be included on the recording? The questions that we've answered are on the recording, yes. Not written, not the transcript. You're more than welcome. What section do I tick on the aided rate form in 1995 to choose minimum lump sum? 9.2 is 1995, and the first box it says is, do you wish to take an additional lump sum? Just tick no, and then that means you just take the standard. That's what we need to tick there, Karen. Well done. You're more than welcome. How many times can I take a lump sum as of 95, 2008, 2015, and the pension in Viva? You can only one. From each scheme, you can draw a lump sum once. So if you've got 95, you can take a lump sum from 95. If you've got 2015, you can take a lump sum from 2015, etc. The other schemes like Aviva and stuff, again, you can usually only take one, but it might depend on their rules. Do you offer more in-depth webinars for LGPS? Daryl, I have done, but I've had to cancel the last one because we didn't have enough attendees. These NHS ones, as you can see, are massively attended. The LGPS one we didn't, so I can try again, but it will just depend on whether we can get the level of interest up. If you were in a redundancy situation, where would you start in regard to pensions? I would consider, how old are you? If that's the first question on a redundancy. You're more than welcome. List of things to go and check. Sorry about that. Right. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through. If I took 1995 partial time next year, would I get more money if I waited another 3 years? So that depends on how old you are. Is it being reduced for early payments? What's going to happen to pay? What's going to happen to inflation? There's a few things you'd have to sort of weigh up there. I can't answer that, I'm afraid. Look, so 100% can take 2015 pension fully at 55, as it says over on it. So you can, right? No, Luke. Right, let's start again. Let me go back to my arrow. I want to make sure you really understand this. Okay, the normal pension age for the 2015 section is state pension age. For some people that's 65, for some people it's 66, for some people it's 67. For me, as we said, because of my age, it's 68. So whatever your state pension age is, that's the age you can take it fully, okay? You can take it from, let's say 57, but it would be reduced for early payments, okay? So normal pension age is the age that we can take it without a reduction. The earliest age would be, let's say 57, but it would be reduced for early payment, okay? Yeah, that's it. You've got it, Luke. Well done. Perfect. Right, if everybody's happy, I'm going to go and I'm going to eat my salad and I'm going to drink my wine in balance. I hope that's all right. If you need anything at all, you've got my details and I'll get to you as soon as I can. As I say, we are super busy, but hopefully these webinars kind of answer a lot of the questions for you as well. And please do use the resources that are available to you, because they are there to help and support you as much as they can. Talk fast, listen quickly. I'm sorry about that, Jane. I did say strap in. It's quite an experience. Kasim, thanks. It was very informative. I'm retiring this year at 60 or 95 and a 15. Any idea about the AW8 form? Any tips to fill it in if I want to take my lump sum? Right. If you can, attend a pre-retirement session or watch one that we've got on the YouTube channel, because we talk about how to fill the forms in a bit more on there, and that might really help you. The other thing with the AW8 is at the back, it's got notes about what you need to fill in for what thing. So use the notes as well and read them first, because they actually are really helpful. Excellent. All right, I'm now going to stop the recording. Thank you so much. I'm glad it was all right and super fast. Do come on another one. You're not limited to one.